Tim, hey, what's your headline out of that? Yeah, still a long way to go. This is tough. I just think what's concerning, it's not a grave concern, but the substitutions, for me, the like-for-like substitutions, changing two of your back three in the 65th minute, there has to be other issues going on that need changing and fixing. And what I would say about, again, this is my opinion, sometimes you have to let players suffer a little bit. Like bringing a player off almost lets them off the hook. You have ideas that you want to get across. Let them play through it. Look, he's chasing the game. I think he can chase the game in other ways, but it just shows what a long-term project this is. When you keep changing players, when you keep changing your back three, you take 5 players off, you're basically saying to all of them effectively, because they've obviously been left out at the start of the game, that you don't trust them. And Ten Hag kept doing that a few weeks ago, where he kept changing the back players, changing the midfield, and all of a sudden you've got a completely different system, a completely different set of players on the pitch at the end of the game, and you can never get stability or consistency. I think that's just an element of what Tim's just said. Just leave the players on. They actually weren't playing that bad in the first half. Obviously, they were undermined by the set pieces in terms of the corners, but the football generally wasn't that bad. Then you allow 2 mistakes that were made after halftime within the first 10 minutes to undermine you, and then basically you make changes and all of a sudden everything falls to pieces. And it looked really scruffy. They looked a mess at the end, United, with no real shape. I had to think, at least in the first half, they weren't brilliant, but at least they had a shape to them. So on Monday morning, on the training ground, what's the first and most important thing he does? I think, I said this for Ten Hag for probably about 12 months. Pick an 11 that you think are the best. But he doesn't know, does he? I know. But I thought today, the team, we all agreed before the game, even Leon commentary and Peter discussed it before the game. We thought that 11 was probably, apart from Luke Shaw, as close to Manchester United's best 11 as you could get. But then he changed 5 of them. I know, I'm not saying don't make a substitution, but almost give that 11 the faith and trust. Maresca's doing it now at Chelsea. He's playing an 11 on a Sunday or a Saturday, and then he's playing a different 11 in midweek, and he's sending some messages to the players that there's stability here. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to play. And this is an idea that I believe in. When you change players all the time, you're almost saying to everybody, you're just juggling plates, spinning plates all the time. There's no consistency or familiarity that can build with players. You need to build patterns together. You need to build that sort of idea of what you're doing together. And they can never do that if players are changing in all areas of the pitch. I agree with that, Tim. Yeah, I do. I mean, the one thing that sticks out for me is in 18 months' time, when I think United will start to be at their best, it won't look anything like this. So many of these players won't be there. And I look at, and I said something to you both off air, like something's crept into United, a few things, but we're playing from behind and you snatch it across. And it was good movement of play and you're pumping up the crowd and you're like, this isn't what Manchester... I played with players at Manchester United that would have been embarrassed and they would have told me, we're losing the game. You don't pump up the crowd. You win the game and you walk off the pitch. And so there's been a lot of that with this current team. And that's about strong leaders and characters holding each other accountable, which they don't have yet. No good team is ever a good team without hard work. Manchester United are 13th in the league, and their running stats, their distance covered is 16th in the league. You don't deserve anything if you're being outrun every single week. And that's also interesting because the first game under Ruben Amorim, their running stats were pretty low, weren't they? I remember you saying, which you'd have thought that its first game, they'd run their hearts out. To me, the worst thing that can be said about you is that basically you're not a hardworking player or you're not a hardworking team. And I think when I interviewed Ruben Amorim 3 weeks ago, he said the first thing that I want to change is the athleticism of the squad. He's basically saying they're not fit enough. They're not as fit as the other players in the league. They don't work as hard as the other players in the league. When Manchester United give the ball away, they don't sprint back with the same intensity as other players in the league that you watch. The one thing that a fan wants to see going into a stadium is their players, if you like, caring and passionate for the shirt. They want to see them working as hard as they possibly can, and they'll forgive a lot of other things. They'll forgive mistakes, but you don't get that from United. You get the poor quality. You get actually a team that is lethargic in the way in which they work. And it's not easy to just quickly, how quickly can you get that fitness? We're talking weeks or we're talking months. Whether it's fitness, confidence, belief, or whether it's just general work ethic, it's a mixture of all three. And I can't work out, Ruben Amorim has got to work it out pretty quickly. Is it a work ethic issue? There is definitely a work ethic issue in that squad where they don't know what the standard is. There is definitely a fitness issue in that squad. And there's a confidence issue. And to be fair, it's a vicious circle, and I'm not quite sure how you get out of it. But something's got to give. He's got to almost sacrifice maybe the next month and say, right, we've got to do a fitness camp, and we might lose games on the Saturday because we've worked hard during the week. But the upside of that is that in February, March, April, May, we'll be fitter, we'll be stronger, and we might start to see something. In the Telegraph, it's come out an interview that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has done with United We Stand fanzine. I just want to read you a couple of quotes. Tim, I'll start with you. These are some quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The club has drifted for a long period of time, a decade or so. Manchester United has become mediocre. There is a major change to come to achieve elite status. It's not elite, and it's supposed to be one of the best football clubs in the world. Trying to turn what's been relatively mediocre into an elite top team is a big task. It is not an easy problem to solve. They are strong words, actually quite similar to what Ruben Amorim said about being a massive club, but not a massive team. I mean, there's no doubt about this. Well, they're trying to make sure everyone knows this ain't happening in 2025, or certainly not in 24, and probably not in 25, right? That's what the message is trying to get out there. Yeah. Look, I like what Sir Jim Ratcliffe has done since he's taken over the club. And quite frankly, once Sir Alex Ferguson had left the dugout, this club needed a figurehead, and they haven't had it. They haven't had someone at the top to just say, I'm in charge. And I'll say what needs to be said. And he's doing that. And I think it's important. And again, I like what he's done. I like the things he said, particularly the fact that his manager is on the same page as him, as are the people under him. It's a strong statement, but it was needed. Is this too negative, or are you okay with it? I mean, we've wanted a voice at the club for many, many years. We wanted someone to speak out. Ruben Amorim saying that basically it's a massive club, but not a massive team. And Jim Ratcliffe saying that the club is currently mediocre. We've just seen the evidence out there on the pitch. What we've just been discussing about that lack of work ethic, that lack of belief, that lack of confidence. There's no authority in the club. They've lost they're scared of their own shadow. There's not a boldness. There's not that sort of feeling of being proud. They need to get that back. And it's not going to come back very easy, but at least they're talking about it. At least they're confronting their problems head on and accepting what they currently are, as difficult as it is to watch.